Socrates. This is gonna be
Attempt two.
attempt two. I
Yeah.
forgot to give your name there.
It's rican.
Introduce yourself.
Yeah, rican.
So Socrates and Rican, attempt number 2 at podcast number 1. We'll see what happens. And by the way, everyone, if anyone cares and they watch the videos I put up in the last few days, I took them all down. I'm just figuring out editing and shit was going haywire, so I'll get better over time. I apologize for the inconvenience, and I'll try to get more content out as soon as possible.
For real. We need what, 2-3 videos a week?
I'm hoping to as much as I can, you know. My crippled ass, I should have plenty of time, you know.
Right.
So, what the fuck was you talking about?
Man, we were talking about something interesting.
So, we were talking about earlier, delicious,
all the topics
delicious
just, went
foods,
out.
right? Like, that's the one I remember, right off the top of my head. We were talking about.
Delicious foods.
And I can't remember how we got onto it, but I was telling you, some of the most... Oh, we're talking about
peanut butter.
Right.
Burgers
If you
and
talk
stuff
about
like that.
food, do you get hungry? And it doesn't really work like... I mean, I'm fat. You'd think that would be my thing, but it's not, you know? I don't really... It doesn't really...
Smoking tobacco, bro.
That
Really
does it
makes
for
me
you?
hungry.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's an appetite increaser, maybe. But,
Then you see why I get so hungry. I just... like, when you talk about food, like, I legit picture it just sizzling. What'd you talk about? The egg burger? Whatever? You know?
yeah, you can go to some places get like a over medium egg on a cheeseburger.
You see, I used to...
I always wanted to try that. Well, recently, this last year, we went to the Rocky Mountains, and there was a lot of nice restaurants and shit around, and, you know, I had both right there. Like, they had one place with an egg. I'm pretty sure that's where I had both. I've had them around here, too. There's a place right around here that does peanut butter on there, too. But I always heard of the egg and the peanut butter thing on, the Food Network, and I want to try that. But we were talking about, how do we put that, you know, there are some foods that I think of, and those do make me hungry for those foods. But the thing is, the foods like that are usually hard to get. And even if you want them, you still can't get them, you know? Like, the one I was thinking of right away is pho, like that Southeast Asian soup.
Right.
It's just amazingly flavorful soup. On a level,
like it, bro.
on a level where it's like, American food is bland by comparison. I mean, you know, the Silk Road, people went even thousands of years ago all around the world just to get spices, fucking pepper and salt. When they say a man is worth his salt, that's because a lot of people got paid in fucking salt because you needed salt to survive. Nowadays, we don't notice any of this shit, right? Because salt is in everything. And we also fortify all our foods. Like, if you look at milk, it'll say vitamin fortified, A and D and shit. And cereals will say this. Mm-hmm. We fortify our foods, that way we don't get scurvy and our teeth fall out and our bones rot in our bodies. Because that's what happened, the sailors and shit back in the day. They didn't get enough vitamin and mineral profile.
Uh-huh.
Crazy shit happens with your body and you fucking fall apart. I don't know how I got on all this, but I was talking about delicious foods, and they have 2 amazing soups, and they have the best egg rolls ever. Southeast Asian egg rolls, the best in the world.
We gotta get some sometime then. We should do a review on them.
Oh my god. Well, there's some Southeast Asian pho shops around here, but they don't serve kapoon, and they don't serve those type of egg rolls. They're more Americanized.
Really?
Yeah, and strangely enough, you know, usually when we think of Chinese food, it's the Americanized version of Chinese food. Same thing with Italian and every food, really. Every nationality's food. But there are Southeast Asian shops around here, you know. It's just that it is a little bit more Americanized. But the pho is decent enough to where you'll be like, damn, I can see why they like the soup. How flavorful it is.
Right.
They know how to put some flavor up in that motherfucker, I'll tell you that much. It's amazing.
You know, I worked for a place that did that peanut butter stuff though on the burger and stuff. And
Did you try it?
Egg. No, I never tried it. You know, I tried a lot of stuff in that restaurant, and I never tried that. I don't know why. I just never really. I didn't think it would be that good.
You know what's crazy though, is in both those soups there's something extremely disgusting, or at least what most Americans would sort of think of as extremely disgusting. Now, different ethnicities, they eat different parts of animals and they enjoy different parts more than others, you know? I hear Latins eat a lot of tongue. They eat a lot of tongue. They got it in all sorts of tacos and shit, you know? And Middle Easterners, they like lamb and camel, right?
Okay.
And Southeast Asians, they eat like tripe. I don't know if you know what that is. Stomach lining. Sounds disgusting. It looks kind of gross, but dude, I ate it and that shit was so good.
You ate it?
Oh my god, that's in that fucking. It's in the one called Cocoon. It's like a red curry noodles. So amazing. And oh my god, like it tastes so good. You're like it. That, you know, I was a real picky eater till I met the Southeast Asians I grew up with, and I fucking love those people. To this day. And you know, that opened up my world quite a bit, you know. I've always enjoyed learning about other people's cultures. It's always interesting,
That
you know.
sounds so disgusting.
Yeah, but you get used to it. If something tastes so good, you just like get over it. Because I was a picky motherfucker, right? And they would eat all sorts of stuff, snails and octopus, and like their beef jerky is made out of squid. It's freeze-dried squid, yeah. You know, like my buddy, he had a food store, Asian food store. You know, we go to Chi-Town all the time. Like all the fucking time, we go to Chicago, pick up food, and you know he destroys his car, bringing like, done like 500 pounds of rice home in his like, his fucking Accord, and a badass Accord too. You know, but he'd have it like weighed down with all that rice chick, bring it back. You know, yeah. That was a lot of fun, man. I had a lot of fun in those years. They're all, like, Southeast Asians are really good people, you know. They know how to live simply, and it's very interesting. But there's a few disgusting things. Let me tell you about that. I'm not doing this to try to embarrass them or anything like that, because their culture is amazing, and everyone has culture or does things culturally or eats different parts of the animal. It's just normal. I mean, even inside of America, we have so many subcultures. Not only does every culture from around the world exist. You know, they say America's racist. No other country on the earth is as diverse as America. None. You know how many black people are on the Chinese basketball team? None. How about the Middle Eastern? None. You know what I mean? We are the most diverse nation in the world. And also, white people are so racist. White people are the only people in all of written history that have ever fought a war to stop slavery and won. A little food for thought.
So what are one of the nastiest things?
Okay, yeah, I'm getting that. Got off on a tangent there. Yeah. I just want to, you know, sometimes
man,
my feelings get hurt, you know.
Yeah.
So I speak from my heart all the time.
Yeah,
so
that's dope to listen to, though.
Okay, I appreciate that, bro. But yeah, like another thing, you know, so tripe, that's not that gross to me, right? But let me tell you about something that's way grosser. Okay. There's this stuff called brat, right?
What?
It's called brat. Kind of has a diphthong in the word there. They have, in their language, they have this thing called diphthongs. It's very hard to pronounce the words. And sometimes the words are so close together, like, if you don't know the language good enough, you try to say one word and you could be like calling yourself a dick and stuff. Because the word for I and dick is almost exactly the same word, just like minus a diphthong.
What?
Yes. And it's been so long, I can't even remember which way is the right way to pronounce it, so I'm not even going to bother, you know? Right. Everyone who knows, you know? And, where the fuck was I going to that? Okay, but they have this stuff called badak, and it's roughly translated like pickled fish, okay? But that shit don't do it no damn description. Like, if I looked on Wikipedia and it said pickled fish, I'd be like, oh, okay, every country has that. This ain't like any other countries that I ever seen before. Man, all right.
We gotta test it.
Huh?
We gotta test it.
What you mean?
Search.
To see?
Yeah.
All right. Hey, shits, could you look that up? I don't know if you heard.
All right, keep going, whatever.
Okay.
And then, so what's the second thing?
And, oh wait, I wasn't quite done with that one. It's called pickled fish. And what they do is they get a bunch of little tiny fish, and they don't even gut them or anything, as far as I know. And they put them in a big mortise and pestle, which is like the big stone thing where you crush stuff down. Uh-huh. Well, they have huge ones, right? Because they process all sorts of things.
Right.
And so they put that in there, and they put in like different herbs and spices and stuff, I think, and a bunch of salt, and it preserves it. And they put it in like a 5-gallon bucket after it's all mashed together, and then they like put it in their basement and just fucking forget about that shit. And I have heard about, and I've even seen this on the Travel Channel with that, forget his name, not Anthony Bourdain, but the Bizarre Foods guy.
Never.
And I think he had this on one of his episodes, but he talked about, you know, like even having it like 30 and 50 years old. But and some of them wouldn't even cover it up, and it would be like left open. And
What?
sometimes, yes, and it would smell like cat shit, basically. It smells like a litter box that needs to be changed. And it's a condiment. So they don't eat it like it's mashed potatoes, right? They use like a very tiny bit of it as a condiment. But it's in like all sorts of stuff. Like I'm pretty sure it's in like those soups that I mentioned. You know? Yeah. But you never notice it when it's in there. But when you smell it by itself, it's so offensive, like to our noses. But it's even to theirs. Like they know. They're like, you know, don't mind this. It's just the way it is. Because it is just the way it is. Like, you know, everyone does stanky shit, and every culture got some kind of, like, Italians got cheese with maggots in that shit, yo, and they eat that shit, live maggots, right? They grow it like that. They do that on purpose. You know what I mean? That was also on that same show, Bizarre Foods. You know, he goes all around the world, all sorts of interesting shit.
Disgusting.
In Southeast Asia, they eat them giant water bugs. They're like water bugs this fucking big, and they open them up. It's like oyster on a half shell.
Have you ever witnessed it?
Witnessed what?
That stuff. What banak?
Badak?
Badak, yeah.
Have I ever witnessed it?
Yeah, like were you there and you smelled it and stuff like that? Like, were you able to see what they got downstairs? Like, you know what I'm saying?
Aaliyah, I don't know what you're trying to do, but it didn't work. Like, oh, you can tell. Like, if they have it out and they're, like, preparing something, you can smell it. Every once in a while, I think they take it out and, like,
yeah,
you know, move it, like, mix it up, or I don't know, you know, but, you notice. It's brutal. But, you know, there's all sorts of cultures with things. I mean, you know, I've seen, well, even in, like, really expensive steakhouses, the meat that they give you, they actually let it rot a little bit. Yeah, if you ever look at, like, a really nice steakhouse, they have the meat hung up. Yeah, Aaliyah, I think you're going to have to come here because you can take a look at those. And then they like, leave it out for, like, 5 days. And then, it starts to rot and it starts to look kind of putrid on the outside. And they cut that. Joe Rogan showed this on his podcast. And they cut it, and they cut off the outside. Nobody eats that, really, I don't think. But then the inside, it's broke down. See, as things decompose, the tissue starts to break down. So the steaks are softer. They're more tender, yeah. It's actually like a biological process. Well, there was these cannibals in Papua New Guinea, and they would eat, they're these headhunters, and they would also eat their dead. And they would let their dead rot a little bit before they'd eat them. In their culture, they believed, they had weird beliefs. They had one really funny thing that I can tell you about, but they believed that, like, if you ate your tribes people, your ancestors, you know, you're passing them on through you in a way, you know?
What?
Yeah, but then they got a brain neurological disease because they were eating the brains. They would let the brain rot a little bit and eat the brain too. So you can eat human beings, you just can't eat the brains because it'll give you that neurological disease.
Just the brains? What about
and it fucks them up
and stuff?
Yeah, you can eat anything else other than the brains. So, as far as I know. And
did you go that far?
Would I?
Yeah.
In the apocalypse? Fuck yeah, I'm eating people all day.
What?
Are you kidding me? All bad people. I'm eating raiders. I'm gonna be a fucking, like, it's sort of like Robin Hood. Right?
Oh, pass me that hand. It looks very good. I want to eat it.
It's going to be Robin Hood. I ain't eating no hands, bony ass hand. I'm going to eat some fucking thigh and some, you know, you ever see that movie Alive with that soccer team that got stranded on top of the mountains? It was like in the 80s. Famous movie called Alive, bought it, books and everything. It's a true story. The soccer team, you know how popular soccer is in Latin America.
Okay.
And they're a Latin American soccer team, and they crashed on the top of these fucking mountains, dude. And they were up there for so long, they call off the fucking search party, and people have to walk down, but they ate everyone who died. Yeah, they're like eating their ass and eating their hamstrings and shit. You eat the meaty parts, you don't eat the bony parts. Nobody want to gnaw on a foot.
That would be so weird, though. It's like, I would never be, nah.
It's fucked up, but it's like, immediately, if there was an apocalypse, you know.
I guess that's different.
The animals will almost immediately be wiped out. Right, because we have 7.5 billion, I think, people on this planet.
Right.
And you know, I don't know how many cows and shit we got, but I know it's going to be a lot less when 7.5 billion people want to feed their kids, and they just start shooting every fucking animal they can. And so the animals are going to run out. The crops are going to fucking run out, of course, because, like, how are they even going to perpetuate crops anymore?
Right.
Who's going to supply fertilizer? Fuck, I mean, the seeds that we use right now, I'm pretty sure you have to buy them every year. The farmers, that's like a big thing, like the Monsanto thing or whatever. They have to buy their seeds every year. So they don't even, They don't.
You said oops.
It wasn't.
I tried to turn it, it wouldn't turn.
Okay.
Part of the screen is cut off by the tape
Huh?
on the live stream.
On mine?
Damn.
I'll fix it. It's not that big of a deal.
Okay. Also, I air dropped it. You should be able to.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Come look at this. This is what it shows.
Okay. Accept. And what I sent you should pop up.
No, but that's not. It brought me to that page that it was just on
Oh.
when I hit it.
Well,
You should really.
But so look, what I'm talking about.
Thank you.
What's the third one? What's the third one? What's the third nastiest one, man? Because they're all really disgusting. I don't know.
Oh, one of the ones they're famous for. Well, the water bug one and the tarantulas. They deep fry that shit. Look, they eat it like it's funnel cakes,
Don't they
man.
get that in India too or something like that? They get tons of insects and stuff. They eat
Yeah,
that.
well, I don't know. That was on Indiana Jones, but I don't know if that was real about India.
Man,
But it's
thought
all these
it
things
was.
that eat all sorts of insects. There's nothing wrong with that. I wish that we didn't find it repulsive because there's a lot of protein. They're really, like, if you look at just nutritionally wise, not only are they easy to reproduce, but they're really nutritionally good for you. So but we're just, you know, we
So if
think
there
of
was an
we
ant-
think of food as like chicken, beef. You know, most people don't even have fish on there. I barely do. You know what I mean? Most people just like food is fish or chicken and beef or whatever. You know.
Right.
But you know, there's all sorts of countries that like anything that is living and moves is meat. You know, I mean, look, like I come from a long line of hunters as well. You know, deer's a big thing.
Right.
A lot of people love that shit, man. But one of the things they're famous for, it's called kailu.
Kailu?
Yeah, and it's basically a translated embryo egg. And what it is, they let a baby bird develop in the egg quite a bit, all the way to where the bones are a little bit there, and it has feathers a little bit, sometimes, and then they hard boil that bitch.
What?
And so, like, when you like, you know, so it's a hard boiled egg, but there's a white and a yolk, but then there's a bird there, you know, like and it's like, you know.
And that's normal.
Oh yeah. It's like a delicacy to them. They love it. I mean, you watch that Bizarre Foods or whatever, and they go to Southeast Asia. I forget which country, Cambodia, Thailand, Laos, one of them, and they were in the marketplace there, and they show the big tarantulas and the water bugs, and then they eat these like honeypot ants, and like the kailu is like one of the major things that sell there, and those are actually popular in quite a few countries. It's just a little bit weirdos, but you know, when you think about it, I like over easy eggs and shit where it's like runny sometimes, and you like
Right.
dip your toast in it and shit. We think of that as normal, but I mean, when you think about it, that's pretty fucking gross. We're eating an embryo. I mean, we think about it, oh, it's just a yolk. We think a yolk, and we're separating it, but we're eating that embryo, right? And so it's just a little bit different, you know? We eat a chicken nugget. They don't quite have that, you know, but they have something different. They would probably think that's really fucking gross. Who knows, you know?
Right. It's just.
So I don't think like anyone's better or worse for anything. As a matter of fact, I'm all for all sorts of diversity, you know, both in, you know, culture especially because, man, variety is the spice of fucking life, dude. You know, I mean,
What, you think we're not?
we got bland ass foods and shit. I'm always ready to have something cool. You know what I mean? It could be a cool type of media. It could be a cool type of dance. A lot of Asians really love to dance. You know, really good at it too. Break dancers, a lot of down rock. You know, not like popping and well, they like that too. But like you know, the spinning around and shit.
Yeah.
Like they're real famous for that shit.
I've
A lot
never
of-
hanged out with South.
I've hung out with just about every people on this planet. I think
What was the most? Who'd you have the most fun with, man?
the most fun with.
Yeah.
I don't know. That's really hard to say. It's like trying to pick one favorite song or one favorite movie.
Right.
I mean, I think the thing to take away from it
Or
is
like-
not who's the funnest, but
Which culture?
everyone can be fucking cool.
Right.
I've never seen a culture yet where, you know, like I have a lot to say about Islam, but I've never met a bad Muslim. You know, I don't hate anyone. I don't hate people,
Right.
right? I hate bad ideas. I hate that people make excuses for bad ideas. That's it. I don't really even like to deal with people unless it affects me. Like, we have to deal with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. We don't have a choice.
Right.
So, in cases like that, you have to talk about the individual, right? Or if somebody addresses me personally, then they say, don't take it personally. I always find it ridiculous when anyone can say anything to you and say, don't take it personally. Because you're only talking to one other person. There is no other way to take it.
Right.
You know, like if they were accepting reality, you'd realize that when you talk to people, your words will affect them more than likely. Right?
Right.
So, I mean, it's just like, you know, I have issues with Christianity, but I don't hate Christians, right? But if I say something about Christianity, Christians feel defensive. If I say something about Islam, Muslims feel defensive. Because they feel personal purchase on those ideas. They're invested. Criticizing those ideas to them, because they hold those ideas, is criticization. I'm criticizing them, you know? I'm telling them that they're not good, right? That's one of the biggest problems in talking about Islam at all, you know, or any religion for that matter. It's just that Islam is currently an issue.
Why don't you believe in religion?
Oh, shit, man. I used to be, like, so hardcore of a Christian.
Right,
but
for like 20 years.
yeah, for like 20 years, man. So hardcore, but I wasn't super hardcore for most of that time, you know. The hardcore part would probably be like 5 years or so, where I was like super dedicated. I wouldn't even watch TV, didn't listen to anything secular, no music, you know, unless it was like Christian gospel or something.
It was that deep.
I mean, oh man, I wouldn't even read any book other than the Bible, because there are verses that talk about don't read any other book, don't trust them, and there's all sorts of anti-science and anti-regular history notions in all the holy texts, in Islam and all of them, because they all have a bunch of bullshit in them that doesn't stack up when you compare it to modern. So they have to fear history and science a little bit. But, you know, yeah, I used to be so hardcore that it was hard for people to, I think, accept me, because I put
God really over
God over everything. I was the jihadist version of a Christian, basically, because I was like that serious about it. I believed every single word of it, and that's how you get those, like, you know, radicalized like that. Like, most people could be like, you know, yeah, but I'm not gonna fucking kill people. I mean, come on. You know what I mean? Yeah, it commands that in every fucking holy book, Christian and Islam and every, you know, but it don't say it in the Jains or the Buddhists. You know what I mean? Sure, there's been Buddhists that have killed people, but it doesn't. They're not commanded to by their holy text. If they want to get closer to God, they're more likely to get enlightened than they are to kill people, right? But, you know, Christianity back in the day, you saw what happened when they got in power. You see in every Islamic country what happens when they get in power. You know, all they do, when they're a minority, all they do is bitch about minority rights. And when they are the majority, there are no minorities. That's a bad idea, man. That's a supremacy group. It's a bad idea, which I hate, which by definition, I hate. No matter what color, no matter what creed, I don't like supremacy groups.
So,
yeah, and then somewhere along the line, I was like, I opened up a little bit, because I was like, in order for me to, because we were commanded, I think it's 2 Timothy 2:15, that says, study to show thyself approved unto God, a workman that needeth not to be ashamed, rightly dividing the word of truth. And it basically means, this is King James, it basically means, which I read about 20 times, that you should always have an answer for everyone that asks you a question. About religion or anything. And what, you know, the more you get out there in the world, you're going to encounter people that don't believe what you believe. So they don't believe that the Earth is 5,000 years old and that Noah had an ark with, it's actually two of every clean or two pair of every clean and two of every unclean or something like that. There was more than just two of each. A lot of people don't know that, but there are over like 8 million species on the planet.
Right.
There is no way in hell. I mean, back in the day, one of the things I did is I went through Genesis and I converted the measurements because it gives the exact measurements for the ark. Which they built, like this dude at Ken Ham, I want to say his name is. He built this creationist museum and he rebuilt the ark at like half size, or I can't remember what it is. Spent all this money on it, and he had like slave labor to do it. Got in a whole bunch of trouble, didn't pay his taxes, and
damn.
Anyway, he's building this like creation land. It's supposed to have a representation of the ark. But anyway, I did the math on it, and I still have it. It's right up there. I wrote a tract on it. I used to write tracts. Those things you hand out when you're Christians, to get people to convert.
Right.
I used to write those, of course, because I'm that involved. But I can't remember where I was going with that. But
you were writing that. You were seeing the ark. Right,
and the thing is like, a couple football fields, basically. You couldn't fit, even two of 8 million species in that space. It just ain't happening. And then you got to carry all their food, and you got to, you know what I mean? For starters, they'd eat each other all to death. There'd just be like whatever one is the apex predator would be the only one alive, including like Noah, and all of them would be gone by the end of that shit.
So after you stopped being a Christian, did you ever try to convert to a different religion?
Well, I would say if anything, that was before. I would say that was before. Before, like, I always thought, because I grew up as a Baptist, and I was always taught, like, God is, everything. And I always thought that I was gonna. I always expected, like, when you read the Bible, it seems like larger than life. When you read any holy text, that's how it seems. Like, these people weren't human. Like, they communicated with God. Why isn't God communicating with us? They seemed more special than us. God was perfectly willing to show himself to all these people in the Bible. He claims about us, or claims he cares so much about us,
right.
Yet, for some reason, he hasn't wanted to do a damn thing since we started figuring out science and got cameras. Isn't that amazing? You know what I mean? So anyway, but when you read the holy books, it makes it sound larger than life. Like Noah, and he was communicating directly with God, and wow. But anyone could just fucking make up a story. As I got out in the world, I found out that I have to, when I tell people this stuff, they don't just take it like how I took it. Because I was just growing up hearing this shit, and you just sort of think, okay, that's the way it is. Mm-hmm. And you don't question shit. So we go up, and then, I always felt like, oh, you have to, most Christians feel like they have to proselytize and convert people. So, of course, I'm, like, preaching and trying to convert people and whatnot.
Right.
And so I'm always out there, and you'd run across people that would argue. And, that's what I loved. That's where I found out I loved debate, I think. But I also got my ass handed to me a whole bunch. Because until I found out, like, reasons, and for a number of years, I was able to find a rationale somewhere between science and religion that fit both, a foot in each world. And I could, like, play it off, and I was a better debater and shit. I mean, you still see a lot of people like this to this day, like William Lake Craig. He'll be like, one of his things is basically like, 2 + 2 = God, It's like, get the fuck out of here. No, it just doesn't, What the fuck, man? But look, if the universe, if the planet, the fine-tuning argument, if the planet was even, 1 mile farther away from the sun, we would all freeze to death. No, we wouldn't. It's called winter. It happens all the fucking time, and it's way more than 1,000 miles, I'm pretty sure. It's like in the tens of thousands of miles. Our planet doesn't go in a circle around the sun. It goes in an elliptical orbit.
So what? Are we like, do we got no God? So just no God?
I don't see any proof for one. I consider myself an agnostic atheist. An agnostic is someone who... The question is, do you believe there's a God? Yes or no? I would have to say no. Agnostic, the question is, what do you know? What can you prove? Do you have proof of whatever you believe, right? And so, I'm an agnostic because I don't have any proof. I'm willing to see the proof, but nobody can ever show the proof. You know what I mean? Like there's a popular YouTube show called Atheist Experience, and all they do is deal with callers and shit all the time. Been going on for years and years, and they deal with this shit all the time. You know, watch a few of those episodes. Anyone will be able to unpack all this information. They do a great job. But it took years for me to deconvert. Slowly over time, I started realizing. I remember specifically one of the things.
Who created us?
Nobody knows. I can't speak to that. Nobody knows that. Nobody's gonna know what happened before the Big Bang. You know, anything like that. So your dad actually said one of the comments to me that started. It's one of the pinnacle things that I can think of that started my deconversion, and I told him this. And this is one of the reasons why when I first stopped being a Christian, I become an atheist. I really felt the need that I had to like divulge all this information to him, and he was like, "I don't really care. You don't have to tell me all this." And I was like, but I felt so compelled to. And because it was one time, you and him were talking about something. I remember 2 questions that you asked your dad a long time ago. And I remember both questions. I was like, I have to get back to you on this. And it took me a while. One of them was about how they could tell how old something is, what's called carbon dating, right? So if they find an old piece of wood, they can carbon date that wood.
He asked that.
Right. Remember that question?
Yeah.
That is one of the main questions that got me deconverted. I had looked that up like years before, and it didn't seem clear to me. And then I looked it up again, and the math and everything, the way it was explained, I think it was on Wikipedia, it was explained so perfectly, I was like, eesh, there's no way around that. And instantly I thought, fuck, I got to deal with the fact that, like, I don't see any way around that this Earth is millions and billions of years old.
I asked you if it was bad to question.
Right. That was the question. Is it bad to question? It took me time. I know the answer to that now. That took me weeks to get that answer. I thought long and hard about that. That is one of the best questions. I mean, it might sound simple, but nobody had ever asked me that question before. In all the years that I was proselytizing, nobody ever asked me, is it a sin to just question things and to doubt? And that's why I was saying that it's those type of questions. You can clearly see it made me confront, is it wrong to question?
Right.
And then I had to really look into that. And what I found out was, you know, there are verses that say, like, you know, that are basically shit on science and regular history as we know it. But then there are things like, this is the thing that solidified it for me, okay? You've heard the story of doubting Thomas?
No.
After Jesus was crucified, supposedly, like in the book of Acts, it talks about Jesus coming back. And Jesus appearing to his 12 apostrophes. His apostles, and one of them was Thomas. And when Jesus went to Thomas, supposedly Thomas didn't recognize him. Go figure, because it probably wasn't him, even if there was a Jesus. But Jesus says, you know, don't you recognize me? And he says, put your fingers in my holes, and you know, in his hands, put your fingers in my holes. Jesus said it. And he said, put your hand in the spear thing in my side, you know? So there is that question. It took me a long time to find that because I was going through all the verses all over the place, and I found only that answer in that story. You know, it's the closest to the question you asked, and here's why. Because it's basically like this. There is God right in front of you. Even them, they're lucky. God just treats them extra specially, appears right to them. He don't do that for us, no matter how much we beg him, right? He won't do shit. That's how we know he's full of fucking shit. Even if he is real, I don't care about him now. I'm more moral than he is. Because I wouldn't let children and babies suffer and people die all over the planet if I could solve it. Right. He is immoral if he is God. So fuck him anyway.
So fuck him anyway.
But, fuck, what was I saying?
You're going with, damn it, you got on the kids rant and stuff, and I was thinking about kids dying and stuff, man, making me sad.
So Thomas is...
you said that how you were trying to say that. So
Jesus appeared right in front of Thomas, and Thomas is like, doubting. You asked, is it okay to doubt? Right?
Right.
Thomas is doubting, and that's God right there, supposedly, to Christians. Jesus is God. I am the Father, I'm one, right? And all the people fall down. In Acts. Anyway,
by him doubting that,
he was doing the same question. And not only did Jesus not rebuke him for it, or like scold him, or get him in trouble, or say you're in trouble for doubting me, not only did he not say, don't doubt me, he said, prove it to yourself. finger my holes. You know? So, not only did he not shit on him for doubting, but he said, prove it to yourself. So that, to me, was that answer. And it was like 4 or more weeks later, and I asked your dad, I was like, okay, you remember that question? I have the answer. He didn't even remember the question. He didn't even remember the question. He's done this twice now. And I'm like, he didn't even remember the fucking question. Like, dude, that shit just changed my life.
Remember the question.
Yeah.
You know he's gonna watch this.
Yeah, I know you're watching this shit, dog. We're talking about you, man. And,
just letting you know.
he's a much better listener than you.
You're always doubting stuff.
Yeah.
Don't doubt them. Accept them.
Just accept.
Just accept.
Don't hate.
Wait, bro. I'm not even in the video in yours. I'm gonna have to be all the way over here.
Yeah, you're supposed to be across the table. Shit. Well,
Well,
there's nothing I can do about that because it's live.
Yeah, whatever.
It is what it is. Well, you can still hear the conversation. Most people are going to listen to it anyway. Most people don't watch. They just stare at my fat ass the whole time, you know? Like, why is that motherfucker so fat? You can ask me that question, I can tell you why.
Put it in the comments.
Because I don't like talking in the comments. We can talk back and forth. I'll be doing it all over video, man.
You want to do a video?
Well, I'm just saying, I can't, I'm not, people will be paragraphs ahead of me typing, you know?
Yeah.
So anyway, I try to get back and tell you that answer. Now you're hearing it. I don't know if I'd ever actually got that back to you. I don't know if we've ever brought it up.
We brought it up, I think, a couple times, but I just wanted to see if you had, like, maybe a little different answer, you know? Maybe if you really thought about it, like, your past, if you really just, or maybe that's the reason why. Or
that's a big reason. After that, I realized I was just not letting myself look at things, and I realized that a big part of it was fear.
Was it?
I was afraid that if I started looking at the world, I would enjoy it too much and not want to go back. And that is true, which is why every religion tells you don't do that. You know what I mean? It is true, because of course that's going to seem better than me not watching TV or movies or radio and just reading my Bible 24/7. Everything's going to seem better than that.
Was it?
Even heaven, where you're just singing praises to God for eternity. I mean, what doesn't seem better than that? Hell seems better than that. Just about. You know, I'm in pain, but I can do what I want here.
Right. Was it so weird when you first found that out? Like, was it? Did you not?
Oh, it was weird. I didn't
first?
accept it. It took a long time. My conversion took a number of years. I started letting in and accepting certain things like, okay, well, I don't see any way around it. The preponderance of evidence in both the age of our universe and planet and that evolution is true, the preponderance of evidence is insurmountable, incontrovertible, empirical. You can doubt it if you want to, but then you're just not accepting reality. Because anyone that looks at it honestly will quickly realize it's not only proven one way, it's proven so many fucking ways, it's crazy. I mean, it's insanity. Every branch of science proves evolution in some part of the spectrum, basically, you know?
Okay.
Every branch of science dates the Earth and the planets and all this shit in some part of their spectrum. I mean, so it is peer-reviewed, and it is proven over a wide spectrum of sciences, all by different people. All these people are coming to these conclusions independently. You know, they're either all this huge conspiracy, but this is how religious people think, that it is a big conspiracy. But the thing is that then when they see things like dinosaur bones, you know what their answer for that is? God. Because, you know, they say dinosaurs lived at the same time as man. Yeah, maybe some cousin of man or something like that. But we could go back millions of years. We're finding out shit all the time. But anyway, you know, they said dinosaur bones were put here to make Satan put them there to make you doubt God.
Really?
Yes. There are a whole bunch of Christians that think that. That Satan put the bones there to make you doubt. If you know, to doubt God, yeah. Instead of believing that those were all real. Like, everyone that dies leaves bones, but those ones are, of course, Satan put those there. It is so fucking, it's called confirmation bias. When they see things that coincide with their beliefs, they accept it offhand. And anything that doesn't coincide, they trump up to, like, Satan. They do it all the time with, like, miracles and shit. Like, when something good happens, God is good, hallelujah. When something bad happens, God works in mysterious ways. There's confirmation bias. Anything bad happens, lump it in this category, it's never God, right? The reality is if God is all powerful, all loving, all kind, all these things, then he is actually responsible for not only what Satan does, but everything would just happen naturally anyway. So if Christians believe in the God that they say they do, then by all definitions, he's actually the most evil being that's ever existed. Because he's done nothing but let everyone die. There isn't a person on this planet that I love that I want to die. And I don't claim I'm all loving.
Right.
It is so quick and easy to see through the bullshit. Once you can accept. And that's why I like talking about ideas, because...
So what's at the end then?
They say the mark of an intelligent man is to be able to do a mental experiment and play around with an idea that you don't hold. And that's what separates learned people and smart, intelligent people who are willing to have a conversation and debate from people who call people racist, but they are actually the racist and the bigot for not being able to deal with another opinion. You know? So, we live in this weird, like, bizarre world, right?
Right.
Where the racists claim that the other people are racist. And the bigots claim that the other people are bigots. And they all make excuses for violence, oppression, especially of women. You know, feminists out there who claim that America has a rape culture. I have this written down really, really great here recently. This guy, I think was on this, he said it really great. I'm going to give him his props. I don't want to be a plagiarist. I always try to give my props. And he was, I think it's on this podcast called Skeptic Fence, and he said...
Skeptic Fence?
Yeah, I just found it because a dude I like, Gad Sad, is on there. Okay, and here's basically how it goes. This is how he laid it out. I don't know the guy's name, and I apologize for that. And it's basically, you know, liberals, social justice warriors, like even Hillary Clinton, complain about the religious right in America. That they're against abortion, their opinions on women, you know, the religious right, women should stay at home, gays, the gays shouldn't be allowed to marry. These are the religious right. Liberals and social justice warriors, everyone hates on the religious right. Yet, what do you think will happen when Islam takes political power? The same as every other country. Sharia law. It makes the religious right look like a bunch of fucking Stay Puft Marshmallow Men. Or, I don't know, like cotton candy people. Or, you know, the nicest motherfuckers that have ever lived.
Let's talk about Sharia law.
Because you can still be gay in our culture and not be killed. But under Sharia law, if you're gay, they kill you. So, it's amazing that liberals can talk shit about the religious right and not realize that they make excuses for people that are doing such barbaric things. It defies logic.
Why are the laws so evil?
Islamic law?
Yeah, Sharia law. That's what it's called, right? Sharia law.
Sharia law, right?
Name some laws.
Well,
they're kind of messed up.
Let me address your first question first, and it might address your second in its context. The reason that it's so fucked up is because, let me start with Christianity, because anyone, if I mention this religion, they're going to bring up, well, what about Christianity, the Crusades? Okay, but it's not productive to talk about the past when we're trying to deal with current issues. So if every time I bring up a current issue, somebody goes, what about this? Okay, but it doesn't excuse the current issue. We need to deal with this, right? So I'm going to go ahead and start with the Christianity thing so they can't pull that card, because I know everyone that's listening that would go off on that is going to do that. So yes, during the Crusades, they were bad. If they were doing that, we'd all be flipping out about it right now, which is why there was a war. But do you know the Crusades, even though they bring that up all the time, were actually in response to Muslims doing what they do now, then. So, you know, those motherfuckers ain't innocent. You know what I mean? Right. No one in the past is innocent, but nobody in the present should ever have to even consider what anyone in the past ever did. You're not responsible for anything anyone ever did. You know?
Right.
None of us were here. Only 2% of people ever owned slaves in America. A whole bunch of slaves were white. Alongside the slaves, tons of poor white people worked. You watch the movies and it's, you know, it's true, but it isn't the whole truth. And there's a famous saying, a partial truth is a whole lie.
So what about more about the Sharia law?
So what happens is, and I started on Christianity, is that in the beginning, in Christianity, in the Pentateuch, the Jewish, Jewish do the first 5 books basically, the Pentateuch, right? Books of Moses. I think they have some of the Old Testament as well. I know that books go in and out, between all the sects and all this. We have what's called apocryphal books. Not everyone claims them as canon or part of the Bible. But anyway, God was a piece of shit, basically, to them, to everyone. I mean, he was like a warmongering God. But then Jesus comes along, and there's a few verses like, I come to bring not peace but a sword. But he's talking about specific things in a context. But you could argue that about Islam too, except that Christianity Jesus basically said he came and he created a whole New Testament, which means new covenant, new contract. Mm-hmm. So we don't have to follow the Old Testament anymore. And they show that in several ways, like when he brings down the veil to Peter and has all the unclean foods on it and told him to eat and brought it down 3 times. And anyway, it all comes down to the Old Testament was basically done away with, and the New Testament is turned the other cheek. In the beginning, Muhammad had verses like all about peace and love, and like there's even like this famous story about this Jewish city took him in, and then like 5 years later he killed or drove every single Jew out of that city. The people that took him in. In the beginning he started out peaceful, and then at the end he became a warmonger, and they have a practice called abrogation, which means that God is allowed basically to change his mind at any time. So if at one time he says, yeah, be peaceful to these people, and later he goes, go kill these people, then you do what he said, the latest version of it, because that's who he currently is. It's called abrogation. See, ours, Christianity was exactly the opposite. That's why it turned out to be so bad, and then all the later shit is all the warmongering shit. He became way worse over time. He led a whole bunch of successful war campaigns. He was extremely successful, which is why Islam is extremely successful at invading. They don't take over by war, if you ever notice. They can keep up a fight forever. Nobody's ever beat them like in a war where they had to surrender. They'll hide in caves and shit forever. But you don't beat them by attrition. They beat you because they don't need to do converts like Christianity wants converts, right? They just, they want to make non-Christians Christians. Islam don't really care about that. When they say the religion of peace, what they mean is, it actually doesn't even mean peace. It means submission. It's a religion of submission. Yeah, like, they don't care if you submit. They'll just kill you or oppress you so bad, put you under they oppress you, they don't give you all the rights, they make you pay heavy taxes, treat you like a piece of shit. More than likely they're going to, if it's like any of the current modern Islamic countries, you're going to want to get the fuck out of there as soon as you can, or you're going to die anyway. Because they have all sorts of rules, like they can kill you and take your fucking property if you're non-Muslim. Yeah, all sorts of fucked up rules. Like back in the day, one of them was like Muslims are allowed to ride horses, and everyone else has to ride like donkeys. Like all sorts of, yes, they oppress the fuck out of motherfuckers. If you notice, like I said earlier, in every country where Islam is a minority, all they care about is minority rights. We're being oppressed. Everyone else is racist. And in every country where there's a Muslim majority, where they're the everyone, there aren't any minorities. Because they kill them or drive them away. There aren't any other ways out in Sharia. They claim that's religion of peace, and it will be peaceful after everyone is either dead or converted or completely shit upon.
There's no controversy.
Yeah, but that ain't peace by any definition that we would like, because we want to know, when we talk about peace, it means in our fucking lifetimes. Or else what's the fucking difference? Right. So they take over not by winning wars. They've never done very good at that. The wars that Muhammad fought were skirmishes by today's measures. But they do it by they move in as much as they can, as many people into a country, and some of them have an average of 6 children apiece, and they're allowed to have as many wives as they want. So one guy will have like 5 wives and 6 kids apiece. Damn. Yeah, and of course he can't. So that the country they move into pays for him and all of his kids, for starters. Secondly, he teaches them kids to hate everything about the country they're in. And eventually there's enough of Muslims, because there's so many of them doing this. Look at any history of almost any country in the world that's Muslim now, and you can trace it back, and you can see exactly how they do this. This is no mystery. There's a guy. I set up a video here I can't remember his name. I don't want to put that down. He was on Gad Sads. I want to say his name is Bill something. God, I wish I could remember his name. And I've watched a few of his things recently, and he tells all about this. I mean, he really breaks it down, and he shows. You know, it's no mystery. And it's just that people, they want, you know, we have a lot of, you know, somebody said this, I think it was on Gad Sad's show too as well, that we have a lot of, like, guilt in all Western countries. Like, because we've been successful at everything we've tried to do. You know, I don't know why I say we, but, you know, because they lump us in as white people like we're all one, but what the fuck do I have to do with them? They oppressed us too. UK, London, oppressed. I was Scottish, right?
Right.
So 800 years my people were slaves. That's 400 years longer than blacks were slaves here in America. And it was by Europeans. You know, Scottish were serfs to the Irish, and then Irish were still basically slaves to the English. And we were the lowest of the low. You know what I mean?
Right.
And they were allowed to do all sorts of terrible things. Rape women and murder, and I mean, everyone's heard of Braveheart, pretty much, you know?
With, what's
yeah,
his name?
true story, William Wallace.
William Wallace.
True story, man. True story.
It's one of my favorite movies, man.
Oh, man, I can't even watch it. I've seen it too many times, and I still cry like a baby. It's just, you know, I cry like a baby on Finding Nemo and shit, you know? Like, dude, when I thought Nemo died, that broke my heart, man. It was too fucking much for me. I was like, he just had one broken fin. You know, that's why I like to see 3D movies. That way nobody can see the tears. So I got them glasses on, you know? Yep, I ain't crying. Fuck y'all. Nope, I ain't crying. I'm like fucking breaking down. I mean, oh my God, you can't go to a movie nowadays. Even like a Marvel movie, you know?
You tear down to that too?
Hell yeah. Like, dude, like, let me try to think of a moment, you know, but like there's always these moments, and sometimes that shit really fucking affects me. I wear my heart on my sleeve, I always have. I call it being real, you know. And
don't you do that in Naruto too?
Oh yeah, definitely, man. I mean, that story is well written, and that dude is super. He's a great character. He dies to change people's hearts and minds. Dude, that's exactly what I've always felt like. It's almost my purpose. You know, to deal with ideas and to question ideas, question what people think every single day and challenge them, you know? Why do we get so intellectually lazy? You know what I mean? Not everybody just naturally wants to learn. Most people are actually contrary to that. Like, not only do they not want to learn, they feel like if they're not, like, partying down and getting drunk, that they're not having a good time. Right? Like, I don't understand that mindset. I never have. I've always been like, I'm what's called an autodidact, and it's a person that's basically self-taught. They're always curious. They always want to learn, so they're willing to look it up. Other people may question something and not look it up. I almost never question anything and don't look it up.
Right.
I can't stand to not know things, which is why I seem like I might know a lot of things. I almost might seem like a know-it-all. I can't speak to everyone's experience of me. Some people just hate me just straight off. They hate my personality, you know?
Right.
But I can't speak to that. All I can say is that
what do you think?
I just try to deal with. I just do what I do, huh?
What do you think encouraged that though? Like you wanting to know.
I think it was because like.
Were you just so curious or something? Or?
Yeah, I've always been a really curious person. I've always wanted to know everything about everything, and I remember like asking questions and people not having answers. And I remember some people like shitting on me for asking questions. I remember my dad doing it a couple times. Over like, I remember we were driving by Lake Michigan one time, and I was looking out onto the lake, and I'd never seen a lake that big. I mean, we grew up on Diamond Lake, right? I'd never seen a body of water that big.
Okay.
And so I was like, why can't I see to the other side? Yeah, I was a little kid. I don't know how old I was. I mean, and he was like, he obviously didn't know the answer to it. And so what he said was, that is just the stupidest question. And I just felt like, what the fuck, you know? Like, he just completely shit on me for asking a question. You know, you always hear, there's no stupid questions. Well, I don't believe that's true. There are stupid questions, but I don't believe that that was one of them. Now, if my son asked me that question, I would know the answer. I know the answer to that. Because my dad didn't give me an answer, and he actually ridiculed me for it. You know, later we got internet. We didn't have internet. Dude, we used to have to bust out the Dewey Decimal System and go to the fucking library we wanted any information. We had to remember that shit, write it down, go hope there's a book at the library that talks about it.
Did you do that a lot?
Oh my God, all the fucking time. you know, but the best you could get back in the day was like an encyclopedia. I mean, but nowadays we have like Wikipedia. It's far better than an encyclopedia ever was. People like to rip on Wikipedia, but it's better. I mean, every encyclopedia updates every year. That's all it does. It can update constantly. And you can have everyone, they say, but anyone can edit it. Yeah, like the people that fucking work on the shit and know about it.
Right, but sometimes just...
Yeah, sometimes it's not, but there's always information that's wrong. There's information wrong right now in all the books at school. We don't, well, maybe not math books. We may not know that it's wrong yet, right? But there is definitely information in there about history and you know, we find out new shit all the time. All the time we're finding older and older shit.
I remember there was a conversation about the Matrix. You were talking about...
Yeah. Okay. This isn't my, these aren't my hypotheses or theories. I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure they're hypotheses at this point. Because I don't see any way you could kind of prove this. But it would be an interesting conversation. Maybe I'll get have a conversation with Neil deGrasse Tyson someday. But
you said we are close to having like
the way they described it is like we're more likely in a matrix than we are not in a matrix. And it came down to the way I understood it. I've seen this on both Beyond the Wormhole, I believe, with Morgan Freeman, his show on I forget what channel. I think it's Science Channel, or it's on some other documentary. Because I watch everything about space and everything. So sometimes I'm a little bit. I don't memorize those things. I try to memorize the facts instead of where I'm getting the information. Because to me, the fact is what's important.
Right.
So then, but it bites me sometimes when I can't give the proper site where I got it from. Right. But anyway, I've heard people talk about how, like, even in our modern culture, there are game designers that design all sorts of worlds, like, you know, Skyrim and Fallout and Oblivion and Grand Theft Auto and Borderlands, and, I mean, there are hundreds of these. Minecraft and, you know, Portal and
right.
Halo, and, I mean, it just doesn't fucking stop. EverQuest and World of Warcraft and Sims, and, I mean...
Okay.
So, and here we are, what? 60 years or so after basically the first, well, our modern day sort of computational devices and that sort of thing. Now imagine what it would be in 160 years. And already we have several types of VR out right now. I think there's a new PlayStation VR coming out like right now.
Yep.
And I think there's an Xbox One, and I know I've heard of a couple other ones on Joe Rogan. They were talking about a couple other types. But you know, the line of thought, I guess it goes, there are already that many more worlds, and it would be so much easier for us to explore the universe in an artificial reality than a realistic reality. Because in artificial reality, we don't have to deal with things like resources, food, time. We're more likely to, or an alien race is more likely to explore the universe by doing it, because in a space that's infinite, everything is going to happen, and you can just make a computer that everything's going to happen in, and it will simulate what you would encounter in space. Not line for line, but these things will happen eventually, right? Like, and so it's more likely, because there are already hundreds of these realities, it's more likely because there's an infinite amount of space with an infinite amount of planets, and that means that there's basically not only an infinite amount of other planets with people that had every choice that we did, but chose different choices. And ones that look like fish people, and ones that look like cat people, and ones that look like dinosaur people, and lizard people, and ant people, and every kind of people you can imagine. There are planets where people developed, or humans, you know, bilateral symmetry beings, sentient beings like we are, have definitely evolved all over this universe, especially since they had a, you know, near 10 billion year head start on us, because our planet's 4.5 billion years old, and the universe is something like 13.7 billion years old. So there's like a 9 billion year difference, because the Earth wasn't formed yet. It was out there, but then it got hit by the moon. The moon was some planet, and that's how we know. And the moon is like spinning around. They hit each other at one time. Okay. They exchanged matter, you know? That's probably why the Earth spins like it does, and the moon spins around it like it does, and the moon is slowly going away. They've proven that over time, like if you go way back in the day, the moon was closer. Imagine what the ancients saw like 3 million years ago when they looked up at the sky. For starters, there's no light pollution. Like now you can barely see the stars because of all the light pollution.
Right.
But back in those days, no light pollution except your campfire. Ain't gonna be too much. And then the moon is fucking closer. Woo!
Right.
I love looking into the sky. I couldn't even imagine. But the bottom line is that the universe has 9 billion year head start. So there could be planets out there that weren't wiped out like ours. Like there could have been shit on our planet before 4.5 billion years ago when these two bodies were heading through the solar system, right?
And you think we're just a simulation then?
Well,
Is that what you're trying to get at?
well, what I'm getting at is that, and if they were anything like us, they're going to create these alternate realities, right? Because it's easier to do that than it is to explore the universe. And so, if even in our primitive society we have hundreds of these realities, not only are theirs going to be way more advanced, with even 100 years, 1,000 years, 1,000,000 years, I mean, go up. The number can keep going up, even into the billions. And we can't even barely comprehend that shit. But could you imagine the technological leaps in 1 billion years? Even if it was just you making your own discoveries and leaps. You could do it if you had that much fucking time. We have great evolution of thought now because of the internet, and scientists all around the world share instantly. And it's evolved our brain power.
Right.
As a species. And so, just imagine one of these advanced races 1 billion years ahead of us. The reality they could make, we wouldn't know the difference. And if we have hundreds of these, how many do they have? They would have ones that are so fucking perfect. There's all sorts of weird theories, or hypotheses, I should say, I guess, about this type of thing. Like, I've heard of one that was interesting. It's the one I said earlier. I'm going to repeat it again for if anyone's listening. And it was basically, if an alien could make this reality and they sit in this VR thing or simulator of some sort and they live their entire life through us, and when they die, and they don't know they're an alien, and when they die they pop out and it was only moments to them, moments, and to us it was a 60-year lifespan, and you played a Puerto Rican the whole time, and I was a fucking Viking, and it's weird, right? It's
right.
Fucking weird. But and when you think about shit like that, that's more plausible than anything in the Bible. Way more plausible. It's it just is.
I don't know, it just sounds so...
Yeah, but the thing is that there's two big things that separate science from theology. And in my opinion, the big one is predictability. Where in science, like, they discover new elements and shit on the periodic table, and they predict that they're going to be there. The same way with, like, the particles. I think it was, I can't remember his name right now, the guy with cerebral palsy, Stephen Hawking, the famous scientist. Stephen Hawking, he has cerebral palsy. I had a brother that had cerebral palsy and died. Older brother. And so I feel for him, and he's like one of the most brilliant minds on our planet. He's our modern Einstein. His name is Stephen Hawking. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it was him. He predicted both like Hawking's radiation. I might be fucking this up. Somebody can correct me.
Right.
And he predicted the God particle. I'm not sure if it was him or if it was a couple guys. I'm fuzzy on a few things, but the deeps are that in science, they predicted that when they built this Large Hadron Collider, I don't know if you've heard anything about this, they predicted that they would find this God particle. Years later, they fucking found it. It was the Hadron Collider was I believe it was the largest science project in humankind ever.
What's a God particle?
I believe it was a particle that changes into all the other particles that we understand, like photons or electrons and positrons and neutrons. And I don't know them all. I don't know that much about physics. Yeah, but I believe, I'm not sure, somebody I'm sure can, the internet is full of brilliant people. If any of the stuff I get wrong, just consider it bro science and just know that I'm not fighting the truth. I just don't know it yet. Okay? So if I'm wrong, I'm not going to defend that I'm wrong. Show me that I'm wrong and I'll be like, okay, cool, move on. Because I don't feel compelled to argue about being wrong. I mean, I think it's the mark of a great intellect, somebody who can deal with ideas that he doesn't hold, and somebody who can process ideals and think about things, even though it could be detestable to them. Like I could have a conversation with people I find detestable. Like because Christians. I think it's important. I don't find Christians detestable, but in some ways, like certain Christians, like those Westboro Baptist Church that say soldiers rot in hell and gays burn for hell and they picket at soldiers' funerals, and of course any of these Islamic terrorists, you know, any people like that, any of these motherfuckers, fuck all them. Even when I was at my hardest core, I couldn't deny the love aspect of the Christianity, though, right? You can't spit that much venom even if you wanted to, because you can't get away with it in the context of the scripture. Islam is not like that. It's the opposite, actually. Everything that I think modern civilization would consider evil, like murder, rape, oppression, slavery, abuse of women and children, lying, all are permitted under Sharia law.
So those are the laws.
Everything that modern man would consider evil are permitted in one way or another under Sharia law. They have a tradition called taqiyya where they're allowed to lie to infidels for years. That's the reason a lot of people think.
And infidels are people that don't.
Anyone that doesn't, any non-believer, basically, yeah. They call us kafir, I believe, and that's like dogs and pigs or something. Uh-oh. Yeah, they call us like dogs and pigs. Oh, this is collapsing, yo. Shoot.
Let's take mine out.
I'm gonna have to build a thing here. Oh my gosh. Sorry, everyone. Anyone that cares here? There.
I'll just take mine out so it doesn't.
Alright.
It's dying.
So I don't know where we were.
Oh, we're at hours.
Yeah, so it's permissible for them to lie to infidels and for them to murder infidels, and so everything that we would consider evil is actually permitted. Now, what do you make of something that fits all the definitions, you know, the description of the definition evil? How can you twist that into you think that you're standing up for good? You know, like these social justice warriors and people that stick up for this Sharia law, basically. You know, they say it's their culture, you know, they you know, that's racist for them to say, look, we're both civilized human beings. You're just as smart as me. You're just younger. You just haven't had the life experience yet. But you're every bit as capable of a human being as I am. Everyone is. We're all equal in that way. Every woman, man, child has a potential. But it is racist to say that those people, and this is what the left, who claim that they're not racist and that the other people are, they are basically saying that this is their culture, we can't hold them to our standard. That's racist. You're saying that they're not civilized enough. That is the definition of racist. That you think you're better than them. That you think that they can't live up to your standards. That is the definition of racism.
Right.
So when, like, the left, liberals, social justice warriors, feminists stick up for Islam and Sharia and they say that's their culture and it's okay, not only are they defending a rape culture,
which they're very against those.
Yeah, which they claim that we have. They accuse us of it, but defend a real one. And here there is no rape culture. Because in order to have a culture, you must teach it to your children, first and foremost, that it's okay. Secondly, in order for it to survive as a culture, you can't be punishing the people that do that. And that's exactly what you have in Islam. That's not what you have here. Yes, sometimes some people get away through the cracks and shit. That's unfortunate, but that happens all the fucking time. I hear X amount of serial killers running free in America at any given time. There are always going to be people getting away with shit. It's fucking unfortunate, but the exception does not break the rule. In that, we fucking crucify rapists here, dude. They get life sentences like they killed somebody. They get the same fucking sentence, like 20 years. A lot of times. Sometimes they don't, but, you know, there's always a spectrum. But I'm talking about in general. If we can prove that somebody raped somebody, we fucking nail that bitch to the wall. Not only that, but we don't justify it. Nobody here teaches their children, yeah, just rape women and here's how you get away with it. I've never heard anyone ever fucking even remotely, you know, it's just fucking ridiculous. But in their culture, not only does it, like, in their holy book say that even if they get raped, they have to have, like, 4 other witnesses to even be able to go against the word of a man. Yes. But that if they don't win the case, then they could be stoned and killed. That's all sorts of fucked up shit, man. It's a true rape culture because not only do they not get in trouble for it, but they teach their children that. That's a rape culture. In every way of the word, of the definitions, you know. It's brutal, man. Now, if Christianity was still doing, you know, the, I forget what it's called, where they went around killing everyone, not the Crusades, but the, anyway, if they were still doing that in the Dark Ages, we call it the Dark Ages, you know, yeah, everyone should be flipping out about them. And we don't have the internet, so nobody knows about what's happening in the Middle East. Then, you know, the only reason that everyone's talking about that, nobody's talking about Christianity, is because when you look it up, you know, they say, what about, like, you know, Christianity doing this? For starters, I'm not a Christian. But just to, I think that we need to compare apples to apples at all times. And we're never comparing apples to apples if we're comparing modern Christianity to modern Islam. Sure, 1,000 years ago, it was the opposite. Islam was like, you know, the greatest scholars on the earth. And they were making great discoveries until that dude came along and said math was evil, right? Neil deGrasse Tyson has a good video on that. But, you know, we're talking about modern times. And in modern times, we got to deal with the actual fucking problem. And the truth is, they don't go around torturing and killing people and putting them in man of arms and pulling them on the rack and burning them at the stake. They don't do that anymore. But you know who does do that?
Islam.
Right. So let's talk about the one that's actually affecting us. We don't have to talk about it as soon as it fucking stops. We're going to stop talking about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. You actually threaten yourself just talking about it. You know, because they can't stand any critique of their religion because I take it so personally. But, you know, we need to be able to deal... all ideas need to be able to compete on a free marketplace of ideas against other ideas by their own merits.
Then let's get this right then. So, if we had a certain fan or someone that wanted to have a conversation or something like that,
we could have them on sometime and talk it out to see what conclusion we can come to. Most of the time, it's not productive. Most of the time, every single time you bring up Islam, they bring up Christianity, and if that doesn't work to deter you, then they'll talk about how it's America's fault. But those facts don't stand up to the truth, and that is, Muhammad didn't live in any of the time that America was here. So the idea that the only reason that they were doing jihad or want global jihad is because of some sort of American policy is ridiculous. Muhammad never knew of America. He died a fucking, 800 years ago, 1,000 years ago? I don't even know what the fuck it was. 1,200 years ago? Doesn't matter. America wasn't here then. I mean, it was here, but we didn't fucking know it as America, right? So, I mean, the thought that any of their policies, I mean, could be because of, or any of their holy books could say this or do that because of America is ridiculous. You know, it says it because that's the same shit he was doing, and he always is going to find an enemy. You know, I think that of all the holy books, Islam is uniquely terrifying in that it doesn't even care to convert like most other religions, and it demonizes a larger portion of the world's population than any other religion. Like, even Jesus said, I came not for the believer, but the unbeliever. You know, he's like, what? You know, they're like, why do you hang out in bars and shit, Jesus? And he's like, because I came to save the people that need it, not the ones that don't. Right? I didn't come here, like, if you're already saved, I don't need to spend time over here preaching to you, right? The guy who's struggling, drinking his cares away every day, he probably needs some help. So that's the guy that Jesus came for. But what happened is, anytime you get a religious in power, they always go straight corrupt, and they just start killing everyone who doesn't do it. When they're in a minority, they always try to convert. When they're in a majority, they just bully. Yes, Christianity did that. Even Buddhism has done that. But it's not because they were Buddhist. And I don't, you know, yeah, I believe that was because they were Christian. Yeah, I believe now it's because they were Islamic. You know, they're doing it because their holy books say to do that. Or all of them have arrived to the same exact conclusion for no reason whatsoever. There's a great quote I heard recently. It was something like, you know, liberals would have you believe that nothing done in the name of Islam is because of Islam.
Who says that?
I think it was Gad Sad. You know, it's just ridiculous. I heard this thing, I think it was on a meme, it was pretty funny, I had to write it down, and it said, just ask yourself this, you know, when you hear, is Islam the religion of peace? When is the last time you saw a severed human head that wasn't being held by a Muslim? Damn. And I can think of a couple, actually, because I watch those cartel videos as well.
Really?
They do that, too. Yeah, but they're extremely violent, and that's the point. That they're not peaceful. That you can't even, outside of a cartel, what we consider basically the worst type of atmosphere in the world to be in, basically, right? Supposedly people are fleeing by the tens of thousands from that right now. It's been an issue for the last 10 years. From, you know, supposedly they're fleeing these war zones and everything. And so if that's so bad, you know, but that's, you know, when's the last time you saw somebody holding a human head that wasn't Muslim? Well, it was a cartel. So that's the whole point. They're not the religion of peace. Their religion of peace is. They chop everyone who disagrees into pieces. Instead of letting their idea, their worldview, compete on the free marketplace of ideas against other ideas in an apples to apples way.
You think one time we're just gonna bomb them?
I think, and like, you know, it's funny, yeah, 'cause we talked about this, and do I want that to happen? Fuck no. God forbid. Yeah, I don't even believe in God, but to turn a phrase, God forbid. I don't like the thought of that. But the same way with North Korea. You know, like, if you run into a place that openly declares war on you like they do every single night, their religious and political leaders are the same people. Who speaks for Islam? Ayana Hirsi Ali said in a debate, you know, she used to be a Muslim. She had a clitorectomy. She escaped a marriage. They tried to kill her for it. She's had to have security her whole life, you know, just for escaping Islam. Because to leave Islam is pain of death.
Really?
Yeah, like you can, if you're a Christian, you can stop being a Christian. They don't kill you. Back in the day, they used to kill you if you weren't a Christian, but that's not now. But now, Muslims, if you leave, they put what's called a fatwa out on your ass, a hit. Like, Muslims are commanded to kill you on sight, basically. And then sometimes they do, you know. There's another guy like that named Salman Rushdie. He wrote a book, like the demonic verses. He tried to, or satanic verses, something like that. He tried to pull out all the verses that were evil, and they went crazy over him, you know. They keep doing this over and over to all sorts of people. I mean, even Gad Sad had to escape Lebanon, you know.
What?
Yeah, because he was a Jew. You know, they found out he's a Jew, but he's also Lebanese and lived in the Muslim culture and you know, was fine, but he knew he couldn't go around talking about it. He talked about it all the time. Can't remember where I was going with this, but I had a good point to make there. I don't remember where I was going. But yeah, man, I mean, we talked about Islam for quite a bit there.
Yeah, we did. I mean, I think that's just one of your, because they're so evil and everything. They just
it's just so pervasive and violent,
exactly
oppressive.
What we were talking about was,
and it forces it in our face. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah.
It's like we have to deal with it. I don't want to talk about this. I'd rather be talking about video games or something. But since we like can't even go a week without a fucking attack, you know, I don't understand. You know, and another thing, like social justice liberals, they say none of these Muslims who are doing these things, even though they, in their own manifestos and admission, claim that they're doing it for Islam and all this and that, and the president will get on, and even Hillary Clinton will say, this has nothing to do with Islam whatsoever. And yet the president says, yet every time there's a shooting, it represents every gun owner. And yet he ain't saying he's doing it because he's doing it for gun owners.
right.
And yet the Islamic dude is doing it, and he says with his own mouth, for Islam. And because that's what it says. So what an amazing mind fuck, right? So this is what makes me want to start doing a channel to begin with, is that I see the world like going crazy. I mean, it is going crazy. And this is why I feel like I have to get to the bottom of what are we actually seeing in reality, or else I basically have to just roll over and die.
And give up.
Yeah. To me, there is no other option, because even if I have to go down talking, you know what I mean? Like, because I can't stop. I can't stop as long as it's thrown in my face. As long as people are out there like, there's a God when there's no God. and they're killing people, they're not just believing there's a God, they want you to believe it too. I'll give that Sam Harris hairdryer thing, you know. I think Sam Harris said it, I might be paraphrasing a little bit, but it basically goes like this. If you knew a person, and every day they speak into their hairdryer, and they believe it's their God, not only do they believe it's their God, they believe that it hears them and that it speaks back to them. We would consider that person crazy. You take away the hairdryer, that's every theist on the planet. And a whole bunch of theists just got offended, and I'm not trying to offend them per se, but I'm only saying that because I have to, because theists want to make laws that affect my life. If they could just believe in their God and they don't try to make anyone else believe, they don't try to pass laws, stop people from getting birth control, stop abortions, like you don't believe in it, okay. But
there's also non-Christians that...
There are Christians that there's always a spectrum, okay? I'm usually just addressing the overall, right? Mm-hmm. I don't, if we have to give caveats for every discrepancy, every exception to the rule, we'll never stop giving exceptions, right? So I do that sometimes, but sometimes I try not to give too many caveats because I'm afraid that, a lot of times I'll go right off the rails and I don't even remember where I was because we feel like we have to give all these caveats because people get so offended just talking about their thing. But they're not offended that they try to influence my life with that, like how they did stem cell research.
Oh, yeah.
That affects my fucking life. My back is all fucked up. I'm in fucking extreme pain all the fucking time. That's why I'm so goddamn fat, because I could barely stand up or do any goddamn thing. And 20 years ago, when we discovered stem cells, they got it from baby fetuses that were died or aborted, donated. And the religious right went crazy because they thought they were going to get this business of turning in babies that were aborted for their stem cells. So they lobbied and changed laws to where we basically couldn't research stem cells anymore. Christopher Reeves needed it and he dies. Played Superman back in the day. Christopher Reeves then got paralyzed. He was like one of the big advocates for stem cells, but nope. He died. Even though he clearly... South Park did a couple good episodes on that. But the rest of the world weren't held back by those religious things. So in a lot of parts of the world, like in Europe, they continued to study stem cells. And now they take stem cells, like Joe Rogan was saying, right from your own body. And they put them right back in later. And there's no babies, there's no fetuses. But since I live in America, now I can't get that treatment unless I go overseas, as far as I know. And it's super expensive and... my poor ass definitely got no loot for that. Right. But you can see how it affects my life greatly. I have to sit here and I'm no longer able to do any of the things that I love. Jiu-jitsu, martial arts. I even didn't mind working. I felt like it kept me on a schedule. I worked with people I love. Your dad and your uncle, And it affects my life on an enormously deep scale. Because my life is forever different. I am a shadow of the person I used to be. Who else can say that by one of the laws? Well, gay people could probably say that if they wanted to get married. And a lady who now has 3 kids, when she could have got abortions and gone to college and made something out of herself, now she's on welfare with her 3 kids for her whole life. These things affect people's lives in real fucking ways. And even though you don't disagree, or, it's amazing that they can make excuses for people who have an actual rape culture, actual slavery, and yet they can't stand the thought of, like, an abortion every once in a while. Believe it or not, those abortion doctors aren't evil. If you believe in God, he's the evil one because more babies, medical has saved more babies than it's ever aborted. You know what I mean? Like, there was a story on Joe Rogan talking about the first doctor that figured out to wash his hands. He went from, like, dissecting corpses to, like, delivering babies. He was the first, and they had a hugely high infant mortality rate back in the day, and the lady would die sometimes, the mother. Really? And he was, like, the first guy to figure out, like, man, maybe we should wash our hands. Everybody thought he was crazy, and they put him in an insane asylum.
What?
Yes. They said a gentleman doesn't have germs. Yeah, they're denying reality, even then. In the face of reality. He instantly started washing his hands. The mortality rate went way down. That's the reason he started telling people this. They would not change. That is the problem, and we're dealing with that problem today. That's why I love, and I chose the name Socrates, because, you know, right on the front, the image says something like challenge yourself daily, or question yourself daily. Question ideas daily. Question your definition of good, and then question if the beliefs that you hold that you think are good by that definition. Or are you making a special excuse for them because God commanded it, and whatever he commands is good. But we can come up with objective goods without needing any Ten Commandments or Bible or anything like that. Evolution itself teaches us why we are kind to each other. If we're hunters and it's in the middle of winter and there's all the deer have gone to warmer places and I have food and you don't, you could come to me and be like, if you give me some food for my family, when you're in a shit situation, I'll give you some. And they make a pact. And you can clearly see that just out of normal evolutionary terms of just surviving, like even outside of the family, to people that you don't have to let in, they aren't in your box. These are people from the next valley over.
Right.
And you can still see the evolutionary processes working that would explain all these mechanisms. We can come to conclusions like, it's better if no one suffers than if people suffer. Because anyone that suffered knows how awful it is. And if you care about somebody, you wouldn't let them suffer. So if God says it's okay to throw acid in people's faces, like it says, that's in Islam, you know, melt their bellies and faces, and that's why they do that sort of thing. We can decide objectively that that's evil, even though it says it's good, or they think it's good because it's commanded by their God, and anything that he decides is good because he says it is. We can determine that that's objectively evil because I don't want that to happen to me. I pretty much think that most people don't want that. You don't want that to happen to you, so we can agree. I won't do that to you if you don't do that to me. What do you think? Good? All right, let's slap hands and fucking have a good time then.
Right.
And most people can agree to that. But all throughout history, you have these, like, death cults that sweep through and destroy civilizations. You know, like what they did in, South America, like in Apocalypto. You know, a true story, or based on a true story.
Apocalypto.
Yeah, and like I think Joe Rogan said they killed like 60,000 people in like a week or something one time, and like.
Isn't their own people?
Yeah, and they killed themselves to death. You know, we have all these extinction events on history. Every 10,000 years we get an extinction event, they say. And not only that, but what about the ones that aren't caused by weather and the fact that we're a dirt floating through space? You know, what about those? You know, they're caused by death cults starting up, and they kill themselves to death or cannibalize themselves to death, you know, or disease. There are many ways for extinction events to happen, but, you know, when something like, you know, I mean, you could see how back in the day they would think like Christianity is going to destroy the world. It started out good with this like hippie, turn your other cheek, and it ended up with, you know, people burning each other at the stakes. And in today's time we have Islam doing that, right? And we can see that Islam is even better at invading. They're even better. They're even better at taking over countries. They win by attrition over time by outbreeding them. You know what I mean? And 30 years later, whatever country they win in with all those immigrants, they make all the laws. Things are starting to change. All the laws are changing too.
So they went over slowly.
Yeah, and okay, so if they continue this way, there's going to be almost no one that's exempt. I mean, it's already all through Europe. It's already big in America, where I'm from in Michigan. Everybody knows Dearborn, Michigan is a butt ton of Islam, you know? I've heard some stories out of there already where they're encroaching on people's rights, and they're just a tiny percentage right now.
Really?
Yeah, like I heard, one of the stories I heard out of Dearborn was there's a Muslim-owned business, and because he owns the business, he went to court and he even won, making even American women that work there have to wear a hijab. In America.
Having?
Yes.
What?
Yes. You have to wear a bag because of my religion. In America, it doesn't work like that.
Right.
It doesn't work like that. It shouldn't work like that, but you can see that even on small scales,
Because we can't.
it's
make
already
them take
working.
that off.
It's already working.
We can't make them take that off.
Right, and that's the thing. We have a serious flaw in our system. In my opinion, it's a flaw that I've never heard anyone else address. As far as I know, I'm the only one that's ever spoke this. I could be wrong, but we'll find out because somebody will know. There's always people that know, and I'm glad to find out. I don't care if I'm the first one. I just want to propagate the idea, and that is. I don't remember where I was going with that. Fuck. No,
talking
it's
about the. It's just when you forget, I forget, bro.
Shit.
I'm all in it.
God damn it.
It's so early, bro. It's so late. My brain is.
Hey, Shits, do you know where I was going with that? I'm pretty sure you heard that rant before.
Nope.
Okay. Well, if we could think of it. Yeah, so, I don't remember what we were talking about, do you?
No, bro. I'm so tired.
God, if I can only rewind it right now. Yeah, it's getting a little bit late and everything. I had a really great point to make, and, oh well, we'll get it out. I mean, hopefully we'll be doing this all the time, and we're going to be having a lot of this conversation. There's a lot to say. There's a lot to say.
It really is. Like, in one... What was this? An hour, probably and a half?
Probably 2.
There's so much information that we're just going to go over again and just
Yeah.
go deeper. Because what I find out about you is, like, you might say things repetitively, but the second time there's a little bit more information you catch.
Thank you for saying it. Because I always say I repeat myself a lot, but the reason I do that is I try to say it a little bit differently every time because it doesn't always resonate with people this way, right?
Because
they need
too
to hear
much
it this
information.
way or this
Feel
way,
that way.
or this way. So yes, I repeat myself constantly and I know people hate it, but I generally change it subtle nuance.
And not only that, it's like after that, it's like, oh, I remember him saying that, so now I'm going to pay attention to that so he thinks I didn't hear him say it.
I appreciate you saying that, bro. You know, it like warms my heart that you would even want to do a podcast with me, man. And that, like, you would even care what I got to fucking say.
It's just dope. It's like not only me that would care, you know what I'm saying? It's just to have a young person with an old cat, you know what I'm saying, just talk.
Yeah.
I mean, even if we don't got any viewers, it's dope, you know?
It's fun. It's fun either way. We're hanging out. We're having a good time either way. Why not record it? Other people can feel like they're part of this conversation. And they
Right.
can be.
Right,
Because we're here. We exist. They can communicate with us right on YouTube. The same thing they're watching on.
right. Maybe we should find later on, like after we do get a lot of people watching, have the comments up.
Yeah, they do that on Joe Rogan and shit sometimes, I think. They'll
Right.
say something like, this person says this. I think it's there.
You
It might be
just-
on a
yeah,
different
you-
one that I watch.
While
like
we're
Drunken Peasants or
while we're
something like
live
that.
streaming, man, you can just load up your comments on your computer, and then whenever we just glance over there, you know.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, we should do
whatever,
that.
Whatever question or whatever that we see first, you just go off of that.
That's a good idea. You're touching on basically if anyone wants anything different or whatever, bring it up, talk about it. We could, you know, we're just learning and we're just starting and we're down for more interaction and more.
Right. Which we got a lot of topics.
That's the
You
whole
got
point.
a lot of videos yourself. What you're planned on doing?
Yeah, I got a lot of
Thoughts. A lot
thoughts. I hope I can get them out there. I hope that,
a lot of good stuff coming, yo.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
have some more good ideas for you that we got.
You've had so many already. It's like, goddamn, you know.
It's because, man, I see so much YouTube. YouTube is just constant.
It is a great source for ideas, but I try to always give credit
When credit's due, yeah.
when credit's due because I don't want to be like.
But you have your own thing about
But I
it.
can't always remember everyone's name and where I heard this or what book I read it in. You know,
Or
I
how I
deal
made
with a
this,
lot of
right?
information, right? And so, like, I can't always remember Joe Rogan or Gad Saad or Sam Harris or, you know, Ayaan Hirsi Ali or Christopher Hitchens or whatever the fuck. So they have to forgive me for that, but there's always somebody that will correct, and that's the good thing is that we can get it shored up. And then later, in future, we talk about the same subject again. Hopefully we'll have those points more refined
And
than
we'll have more conversation by then because more information's been
Yeah.
up, man.
Yeah, and you know another thing is that I don't know if you have a computer at home,
Yeah.
but we can hook it up and do a podcast. But you don't even have to come over here if you don't want, because that's how like a lot of them, like Drunken Peasants, Skeptic Fence, they just meet at a certain time and they like can see each other and they just sit there and talk and shit, and neither one of them leaves their house. And then when it's over, you just...
I don't know, man. It just feels...
It does feel good when it's like one-on-one and personal. That feels great. But I'm just saying that it is an option that's available. And it doesn't... Like, when I'm watching it, it really doesn't matter whether they're there or not. Because Gad Sad's podcast is like his conversation's always over the online like that. And then Joe Rogan's is like they're always there. And you know what? It really doesn't matter. I thought having them there mattered that much. Well, it did back in the day when the communications weren't that great.
I think it matters.
But I think it matters somewhat, yeah.
You know? The person actually doing it. I don't know. It's just so weird because, like, this is like, it feels like our own radio room, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Nothing's going to come in here.
Yeah.
But when you have your own house, I guess maybe there's going to be an agreement, obviously, at the other house. But, you know, I don't know.
I see what you're saying, though, yeah.
I mean, for a rainy day and we got to get some info out, we put some info out. Of course.
You're right. And I feel like it adds a level of enthusiasm to the conversations.
Man, if they don't think we're serious about this, they're crazy, man. It's 2:35 in the morning, working hard, man.
Yep.
Trying to get this. We failed once.
Oh, man.
So
I put in
bad.
3 days of work, and those videos were just nothing worked right.
That was frustrating just to hear about it.
I was so frustrated.
I was like, what the... Because we talked about a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, we did. And we figured out quite a bit since then. We're going to try out new things. We will eventually figure out the best way. If anyone has any ideas on what the best way is, we're always open to ideas. I want to know the best way. Everyone, I think, wants to know the best way to do it.
You think we should open the option of team name? People put some comments of team name?
Actually, I was going to bring that up to you. I'm so glad that you fucking said that. Here you are, busting on another good idea.
Because, like, we can see how someone views
us. Anyone who wants to name this shit, name it. What do you think? Like, we could have a contest. You know what I mean? Whatever. Anyone who cares, they can come up with a name. It's like on your Mom's House podcast, you know, they get people involved quite a bit, you know? Right. People make music for them all the time on their thing. And,
oh, really?
Yeah. It's really cool. It's really cool. So, yeah. You want to about wrap it up, or...
Yeah.
Seem like you're getting pretty tired.
So tired, bro.
So cool. We're going to wrap it up.
Yup. Well, it's just peace.
Yeah, peace. But Socrates.
Yeah, rican.
And we're out.
Deuces.
Peace.
Yes, press another button. It's going down, Gary.
Yes. Yes.